She arrived early, her blue cotton blouse clinging to her damp skin, and breathed in the cold air from the AC as if it could wash away her nerves. Gabe Parker, the person who had become her dream and the focus of her fantasies, was not just another celebrity. The studio's managers expected a story that would rewrite the bad press and sell him to America. Having once had a story published and having been recommended by a professor, she accepted the opportunity at broad sheets, hoping the piece would secure future work. She checked her bag one last time, the pen, notebook, and tape recorder, feeling as ready as she could be. He's just a person. When the door opened, the light of a brisk winter day made Gabe Parker's tall, rugged features glow, proving the author's dream of a glorious figure. Gabe lifted a trembling puppy, its soft breath calming the tingly surge that had taken hold of her.
Can you take her for a moment?
Inside the house, Gabe wiped a stained shirt and invited her in, the cabin like warmth of wood panels and open doors washing away the evening's rush. He said sorry about that, and we both stood there in silence, the air still holding its breath. He murmured, "Wow, and then your eyes." He then asked, "How do you pronounce your name?" The narrator softly guided Gabe to pronounce her name correctly, a gentle touch amid the quiet.
Jani.
As Gabe held the puppy, the warmth of the moment steadied the narrator's racing heart, and the evening settled into a quiet ease. The interviewer wondered, unsure, whether Gabe's question about talking to himself was a sign of nervousness or a hint of intimacy.
A documentation of your ideas.
Gabe's gentle affirmation of her writing and his love for books shifted the mood, and he proposed a casual lunch, hinting at a more relaxed interview. The December sunlight bathed Gabe and the puppy, a quiet tableau of a shirtless man and a soft-spoken dog, and the narrator felt a quiet ache for proximity. Inside, the room was plain, but the scattered books, bell hooks, Catherine Dunn, Tim O'Brien, reminded him of home, while his own fingers ached to touch them, yet his thoughts drifted to the missing drive to write. He stood there, fingers wrapped around his bag, aware that the urge to write had slipped like a fly, and the realization that he might not be able to interview lingered. He reached into the pile of DVDs, finding the Philadelphia story, a quiet moment of nostalgia.
I don't want to be worshipped, I want to be loved. I think Ryan wants our bond to be a combination of Cary Grant and William Powell.
The narrator and Gabe linger over a DVD, the room quiet as they talk about the film's allure. The narrator explains how the plot centers on a scandalous father-daughter dynamic, which feels manipulative and discomforting to her.
I love this movie, it's funny and romantic and has amazing banter. My sister didn't mention any of this.
She noted that the movie held more layers than initially seen, but Gabe remained puzzled, echoing his sister's omission and his own uneasy affection for the plot.
I'm starving, let's eat.
The article argues that Gabe Parker, an American, is an unsuitable choice for Bond because of his lack of British background, his unsophisticated persona, and alleged personal indiscretions.
I call absolute bullshit on the claim that Parker was the production's first and only pick. The man with the martini needs to be sophistication personified.
The car glides down Donia's, my nerves tight as Gabe's puppy nudges his lap, and the road stretches quietly.
You're from LA, right? Like Hollywood. Wow, it must have been cool growing up here.
He muses about winter's chill, Montana's stunning beauty, and the seasons that tug at hearts, while the puppy's paws twitch in the breeze. The narrator, on the defensive, explained that LA was far more than Hollywood, and Gabe agreed that the tacos were great.
The tacos are great.
When the waitress arrived, Gabe welcomed her with a hug and a kiss, teasing her about her pregnancy, then introduced Madison, and said if you get a burger you must get a beer. The grin returned, and with it, my improper tingly feelings.
You're gonna love this one.
He laughed, teasing me about being worried, and his eyes glittered with the kind of light that made my pulse both slow and quick. The reporter sits across from Gabe Parker, a tape recorder in hand, his nerves settling into a quiet determination.
Do you mind if I ask you some questions? Or we could just talk.
The puppy sighed beneath the table, and I asked its name, while Gabe's smile bloomed.
Haven't decided yet.
I told him it was my new favorite beer, and he lifted his glass to clink ours, a quiet celebration of a simple moment.
Because it was a class requirement. My sister thought it was hilarious.
Gabe mentioned his sister's amusement at his stage antics, and that his close sister, best friend, and niece form his personal world. Gabe, after a brief pause, confessed he'd spent time researching the narrator's background, recalling family details and university visits, as if he had known the writer from before.
I did my research too.
The revelation left the narrator unnerved, feeling as if a skateboard had been yanked from under him, a quiet ache of being misjudged lingering in the night. Gabe's face went blank as the interviewer mentioned a tabloid article that claimed his father had died when Gabe was 10. The interviewer whispered a quiet apology, acknowledging the rules before the conversation shifted.
What about your father?
Gabe stood abruptly, the sudden motion plummeting my stomach as he slipped the puppy from the ground.
Will you excuse me for a minute?
He returned across the table with another beer, his expression neutral, and asked if we could continue.
It's over.
He drove off, saying he was leaving for New York where life felt more creative, while I stayed, quietly eating ice cream, feeling my plans drift like a storm. Heartbreak, which I hoped would inspire, has instead washed away my goals, leaving me resentful of the idea that he might turn this into a best-selling book. Gabe pointed at his own face, saying, "You know you have something here," and then added, "I think it's ink." And the narrator felt the heat of his own skin as he scrubbed the smudges away. Gabe whispered, "Jesus," and then, "Hold on," dipped a napkin into his water glass, dabbed it gently on the narrator's forehead, withdrew, and the third beer and 2 burgers arrived. The two ate side by side. Gabe murmured, "Oh yeah, and that is fucking delicious," then turned to the narrator and said, "I've read your articles," prompting a quiet reply of "You have." And a simple, "Of course." Gabe dipped a French fry into ketchup, and the conversation shifted to my blog, which he found unexpectedly humorous.
I like your blog.
I replied with a laugh, noting that my blog had become a personal journal, and we shared a quiet moment over the fries, feeling the weight of the conversation ease. The conversation turned to food, and Gabe, eyes flicking to the tape recorder, promised that they could enjoy burgers and fries again only after Bond, unless they moved straight into shooting the second movie. Then they'd settle for protein shakes and lettuce.
Farewell, friend.
Gabe confessed that he had been the second choice for Bond, that the role had gone to Oliver, and though the narrator's preference lay with Gabe, he kept his professional focus, setting aside personal feelings. The conversation drifted to the Bond saga, with Gabe gently recalling his mother's preference for the iconic role.
Was Oliver not available?
He assured the interviewee that preparation was underway, promising the dialect coach would keep his hayuks to a minimum. Gabe, still tipsy, asks for another beer and says, "We're friends," after noting he and Oliver remain friends. When I ask if we're still friends after the Bond decision, Gabe laughs, says, "Nua," and nods that I'm trying to get something, while Madison offers more drinks. After a few sips, Gabe repeats, "It's fine." Madison says he's a good man, and then he grins, takes another drink, and walks away. Gabe, arms crossed, replies that he and Oliver are merely friends, saying, "Are friends."
Canary. The biggest challenge with a role like this is doing it even when you know you don't deserve it.
World War II movies often promise glory with handsome soldiers and exploding shells, yet they are usually just Oscar bait. Tommy Jacks follows the formula, but adds a sharper brotherly contrast. Clever Matthias yearning for more, and his simple, farm-grown brother Gabe, who joins the army to make a difference. He ain't much to think about, but he sure is a lot to look at. Gabe nursed the last fourth of his beer, the sun dimming, as the interview wound to a close, and the narrator wrestled with a desire to turn the ordinary into something golden.
You and the novelist are done, huh?
The conversation slipped into a quiet confession about a broken romance and a former novelist, leaving the narrator humbled by Gabe's calm interrogation. The narrator shifts uncomfortably, sensing tension as Gabe is asked about his relationship with Jacinda.
Jacinda and I are just friends.
The narrator, skeptical, wishes for confirmation, wonders if Gabe is lying, and watches the puppy fall asleep beside him. The interviewer saw Gabe cradle a snoozing puppy and asked, "What's the other part?"
Do you want to hear about the trip we're planning to Italy? You think I could do better than playing James Bond?
He asked me what makes him feel like a success, probing beyond accolades to the quiet satisfaction of writing for his own sake.
The novelist.
He replied that true success is the freedom to write whenever he wishes and to live comfortably through his own words, a question he'd never before been asked. Choosing to be a writer feels like being slapped in the face repeatedly, a cruel, relentless test of perseverance. The writer's mind is haunted by the dread of never being good enough. That may be the most frightening truth is being utterly boring.
I'm not good, I'm not bad, I'm just right.
The house was beautiful, enormous, with 8 bedrooms, a pool, a sauna, and a kitchen that seemed like a museum.
You're not in love.
Gabe laughed low and rich, then admitted his heart wasn't drawn to the house, as the puppy played nearby. Gabe, curious about my thoughts on the sprawling mansion, asked if I would buy it, and I replied that none of us could afford such a place. I mentioned that my family would stay in Montana, yet Gabe explained he would bring them to LA for events and that he was considering buying a house for his mother and helping his sister with the down payment. Gabe admitted the house feels almost nostalgic, like part of Lowe's Angels' collective memory, but he remains unsure if the space truly serves his family's needs. They returned to his Laurel Canyon rental, the puppy drifting asleep in his lap as Gabe gazed out the window at the sun dipping behind the cliffside.
The mountains, gold and pink.
He offered a cup of coffee, but I declined, saying I didn't drink coffee, and he replied he had tea. Gabe reflects on the deep bond with his older sibling, saying we were practically raised as twins, and recounting shared birthday parties, a shared room, and almost everything until school separated them. He speaks of his niece, calling her, "She's the love of my life," and describes visiting her as a 2-person giggle session over silly peas at the kids' table, reminding him how family moments are simple and sweet.
They have everything, books, crafts, everything. And if you aren't sure what you want, write them an email, they're great at recommendations. I used to have a good recipe for chai.
He revealed a box of pink tea bags, asking if peach tea was acceptable.
You know, into the woods.
The scent of coffee curled around the kitchen, a comforting, almost ironic aroma that made the space feel like a quiet harbor.
No, I said, I liked the food. No one does bagels or pizza like New York. Their Chinese food is better too. I still can't find a place here that does a decent scallion pancake.
Gabe stirred tea, and the bright fuchsia swelled, while the narrator promised to share the elusive chai recipe when found. After Gabe returned my cracked phone, he slipped his number, Gabe Parker, Team L.A., into my pocket as the evening grew darker and the tea cooled.
I should probably watch the Philadelphia story.
He shrugged, hinting at the premiere plans, then his phone buzzed, reminding me that the invitation was probably just a routine manager call. The conversation turns to the play Angels in America, and the narrator calmly reminds Gabe that the focus should be on acting, not on a past kiss.
No, I said quickly. Angels in America is a great play, I said.
When I began to leave, Gabe's mouth twitched into a quiet smile and he said goodbye, calling my name with gentle ease.
Bye, Channy, call me if you want to go to the premiere, we'd have fun.
I turned toward the door, feeling the brief invitation hang in the air as I stepped out. Matthias's former co-star Gabe Parker arrived at the Shared Hearts premiere to offer support. He was accompanied by a mystery date whose sparkling blue outfit delighted onlookers. It seemed the pair's shared love for the color blue was a subtle nod to their affection, a quiet statement of care through fashion. Gabe Parker arrived at the Shared Hearts premiere, not alone, with a date whose sparkly blue dress echoed his favorite blue suit.
Call me if you want to go to the premiere.
The soft glow of their attire reminded the narrator that sartorial choices speak louder than words when caring for a man. Gabe Parker arrived at the Shared Hearts premiere, not alone, his presence quietly supporting his former co-star. His companion wore a sparkly blue number, a gentle glow that seemed to echo Parker's own favorite suit. In the world of the Fuggirls, a man's affection is shown most honestly through the clothes he chooses to wear. He parks, checks his shirt, notebook, and chin, feeling grateful that the little black hair is absent, before walking into the familiar yet jarringly unchanged pub. Inside, the sight of Madison, now mother of a 10-year-old, makes the passage of time feel oppressive, and he senses his return to LA as an old sweater that is stiff and plasticky, never truly fitting. "You can say yes," she writes. The narrator recalls that Katie had promised to remain friends with both, yet she came to LA with him, sparking tension with Jeremy. "You gave it your best shot," she'd told me, "but you were up against the stars."
She's a kook, Jeremy had always said with affection. She's the kind of person who would accidentally join an MLM scheme and somehow manage to either make money or take it over from the inside.
She wraps her cardigan, feeling the weight of age settle into her jeans and the soft whiteness of her hair, wondering how she now looks to others. She recalls Gabe's recent image, clean cut, sharp jawline, a beard now framing his face, and wonders whether she still cares what he thinks of her, despite all the research she has done.
Channy, Gabe says.
The book's pages glow with wit, as if a dear friend were whispering jokes by lamplight. Its centerpiece, the Gabe Parker, shaken not stirred profile, lets readers laugh, then pause at the blush of embarrassment. Yet some readers feel the stories lean inward, echoing the author's voice more than the people she interviews.
"Hi. It's good to see you."
He smiles, beard and cap hiding parts of his face, but his tired eyes look back, and Channy feels the walls she built around her heart begin to loosen, realizing this present Gabe feels both distant and intimately real. She feels her heart quicken, her palms damp, as if 10 years ago the pull of Gabe's presence still lingers. Gabe smiles, and her fingers trace the empty space of a ring she no longer wears, a reminder of the past she left behind.
"It's you."
She realized that if she let herself crack, she would smile and melt, but instead she chose to lean into her anger.
"That bad hug."
"Shall we begin?" Gabe surprised fans by leaving set to marry Jacinda Lockwood in Las Vegas, a move that stunned the public. Management confirmed the marriage and said it would remain private, while thanking fans for their love. "I was just as surprised as everyone else." The narrator quietly declines the sour beer, telling the waitress no beer, and allows Gabe to order his burger and water, a subtle shift toward his sobriety.
"Shall we begin?"
The narrator, nervous yet purposeful, reminds Gabe of the changes in his career, noting that the interview is a chance to prove herself to him and to herself. Gabe reflected that he had drunkenly embarrassed himself in front of the entire world and lost a role he never deserved, admitting that was only the beginning.
Who really feels that they deserve the good things they get?
He spoke of his 2-year sobriety, saying it was the accomplishment he was proudest of, even more than Bond. Gabe explains that keeping sobriety is still a struggle, but he relies on a sponsor, therapist, and reframes cravings by reaching for a phone or a meeting. He reflects that the article that went viral is his proudest work, though its success feels like a footnote tied to Gabe's career.
Distance.
Gabe's gaze softened as he began to speak about the mistakes that had shaped him.
"I fucked up a lot."
He admitted that his marriage was complicated, but left no regret, and he touched on the influence of Jacinda and the novelist Jeremy in his life. At the base of the bridge, a sticky, jubilant kiss and a smear of pistachio on his cheek, Jeremy knelt beside Channy and asked her to be his wife and muse.
"You inspire me," he'd said. "Every day we're together, you inspire me. Please, Channy Horowitz, will you be my wife and my muse for the rest of our lives?"
The recollection felt like emotional whiplash as Gabe misread my expression, and I found myself on unsteady ground, haunted by the long-ago weekend, recalling my move back to Montana to stay near family, then to New York, and explaining that Hollywood's party culture made recovery hard. She shares burgers, pushes her remaining fries toward Gabe, who finishes them without comment.
"You're back now."
The Philadelphia story. Channy sits in the dim restaurant, eyes on the door, longing to flee, but feeling the chill of Gabe's voice calling her name. He asks if she has what she needs. She says she has enough, then offers to show her something she refuses, feeling uneasy.
"But what do you have to lose?"
Parker, the former Bond actor, has visibly gained weight since his dismissal, as shown in grainy photos. rumors of a drinking problem, paparazzi catching him vomiting beside his car, and a strained relationship with Jacinda have plagued him, while his on-set behavior was described as difficult and combative.
Gabe is proud of the work he's done as the first American Bond and looks forward to seeing who will be the next to step into the legendary icon's shoes.
She drives opposite to where she should, noting how the familiar road has only subtle changes while Gabe's house remains the same. Her anger, a shelter for tangled feelings, is directed at Gabe for past lies and the way he has pulled her into his orbit.
I bought it.
He looks out into the empty yard, feeling the weight of 10 years pressing down like a stack of bricks, a quiet sadness settling over everything he has lost and gained. When Gabe offers water, he accepts it, clears his throat, and repeats that he can't stay. An echo of a promise he has made for the 5th time, his voice thick with uncertainty as memories of their last time together press close around them. Gabe finally says he should have told him about Jacinda, and the narrator, in turn, admits he should have, both speaking into the night with a shared apology for the lies that have rippled through their lives. I watch the woman across the table, her gaze meeting mine as a quiet storm of shock and awe rippled through the room.
It wasn't fair to her, to you, to both of you.
I thought the marriage had been a mistake, that the rumors were true, and I told myself, I should have known. Gabe confides that the arrangement with Jacinda was a casual, friends with benefits understanding, nothing grand.
It wasn't some big grand plan.
The narrator feels the sting of deceit, recognizing that the promise of solving problems was misguided. They settled into a quiet conversation, the evening's hush wrapping their words in gentle comfort.
I actually like Jeremy.
Gabe listened with a quiet nod, and the space between them held a soft, unspoken apology. Gabe recalls how Oliver introduced them, and how the meeting turned into an unexpected encounter that left both stunned.
I didn't expect you.
They stare at each other. Gabe confesses he wanted to see her, and after she angrily knocks her glass, he calmly offers a trip to Montana. The narrator asks if Gabe will take him to Montana.
Yes.
Gabe smiles at the narrator's remark about being nuts and agrees to take care of everything, but the narrator quietly says they can't go. In a quiet interview room, Matthias and Parker, intertwined as a single voice, unfolded the quiet rhythm of their long-time friendship. Matthias confessed that Gabe was the only fit for the role of Dex, while Parker teased that they would have starred instead, a playful nod to their own talents. Together they agreed to reshape the story, rejecting the original sexism and striving for a fresh, thoughtful narrative. Matthias and Parker discuss reimagining a classic, seeking a fresh take rather than a faithful remake.
I didn't want the movie to be a straight remake of the original. It had to be different.
They also confront the original sexism, agreeing that a better portrayal of Tracy and her father is necessary. The conversation meanders as Matthias mentions Gabe as the only person he considered for Dex, and Parker interjects with his own thoughts on casting and the film's sexism.
Well, Gabe is the only person I ever considered for the part of Dex. It's horribly sexist and gross.
She stood beside Gabe Parker, the glittering crowd surrounding them, and felt the weight of being an outsider. Her dress, a simple sparkly blue, matched nothing but luck. The evening unfolded as a series of fortuitous coincidences. Gabe guided her to the evening's highlight, the incomparable Oliver Matthias, and for a fleeting moment she belonged among the beautiful people. At the Shared Hearts premiere, Gabe, buoyant and supportive, extols Oliver's talent, calling him a legend and praising the experience as an out-of-body lesson.
He's a legend. Watching him on screen can be an out-of-body experience, but acting next to him, that's the education of a lifetime.
Later, the two men reconnect. The night turns into a lavish after-party where Oliver hosts. Gabe remains a calm, platonic companion, and the narrator feels awe and breathlessness amid glittering entourages. Jacinda feels Gabe's arm rest against her waist as he introduces her to the man of the evening. Her hand on his arm steadies her, a quiet gesture that bridges her normal world and the glamorous night. The brief introduction becomes a gentle anchor, a quiet moment that steadies her amid the flashing lights. We find ourselves in a secluded restaurant, its entire floor reserved just for Oliver, where each bespoke cocktail glimmers with orchids, silk umbrellas, and crystal-encrusted swizzle sticks.
It's a good thing he's playing Bond. I'm only pretty when I'm not standing next to you.
Joe whispered, "He's going to try and fuck you," a warning wrapped in humor. Joe would say, "He wears his jeans too tight," labeling it a sign of insecurity. She demanded, "You'll have to tell me all the details," pressing for the scandal story. She texted Gabe, who promised to arrange a pickup, and Joe reacted with a wary frown, suggesting it might just be an interview. Maybe this is just for the interview. Joe warned she wouldn't expect a red carpet outing, noting that the dress I planned to wear would be deemed hideous, and I sat, uneasy, pondering whether Gabe was trying to butter me up for a complimentary piece. The dress she slipped into felt like velvet spun with tiny crystal beads, a dramatic echo of an old Hollywood gown, yet as she zipped it, a sharp ripping sound split the quiet. She gathered a safety pin from her desk, her fingers trembling, and pressed the torn edge against her bra, praying that the dimming lights would swallow the mishap. Joe, still watching TV, turned to her, and with a quiet smile, remarked that she looked beautiful. "Remember everything," Joe said. She added she would want every detail, even the shaved body hair. The request felt like a demand for full honesty, all the way to the smallest detail. Oliver Matthias arrived at the Shared Hearts premiere in a green checked suit, exuding the confident air of a leading man while escorting Isabella Barris, who stepped into a vintage Versace gown. Jacinda Lockwood graced the red carpet in a neon teal Gucci dress, a daring strapless number that glittered as if she were wearing the sun itself. The event's fashion unfolded in bold strokes: Oliver's crisp suit, Isabella's timeless gown, and Jacinda's luminous, unapologetic style, each element echoing the night's dramatic spirit. Gabe waited at the end of the red carpet, his presence enveloped in expensive cedar and a whisper of whiskey, hugging me while I struggled to keep my composure.
You made it.
He laughed, tucked my hand into the crook of his elbow, and urged me to smile as lights flared, the crowd's questions swirling around us. Gabe wrapped his arm around her waist as they stepped onto the red carpet, his posture shifting to stand straighter, eyes on the cameras.
I'm just here to support Oliver.
Inside the theater, he offered her a glass of whiskey, its burn warming her throat as he spoke of practice and coping. She asked Gabe if this was still part of the interview. He paused before drinking again.
Fuck it. I thought that interview was yesterday.
She felt a watchful gaze upon her, wondering if she was seen as a dirtbag and if Oliver was trying to protect Gabe from her. In the flickering lobby, Oliver declared, "Time for the show," while Gabe assured her he'd be at the after-party. As they walked to their seats, people stared. Gabe told her not to be ridiculous, and she whispered, "I don't belong here," feeling more out of place.
You're impressive.
Gabe's words hovered like a gentle breeze, settling into her mind and reminding her that her writing had earned her a place among those she admired. With the lights dimming, she offered a quiet thank you, her gratitude as soft as the night air. Critics agree the movie will tug at your heartstrings and say, "Bring tissues." Matthias portrays Jonathan Hale, a down-on-his-luck salesman who falls for Barbara Glory, a woman whose past may hide espionage, in a doomed romance set in post-war Britain. He points out that the film could have been your Bond, remarking, "This could have your Bond."
You liked it.
She answered that it was very good, her throat still tight, and Gabe smiled, calling the star a legend and inviting her to the after-party. She accepted Gabe's invitation, feeling the intoxicating warmth of being welcomed by a celebrity she admired, and the after-party awaited them at the nearby restaurant. The room glowed with lavish flower arrangements and black suit waiters, a scene of money and glamour.
I'm going to get a drink.
Gabe, with gentle hands, guided me to a reserved booth, and as we clinked glasses, the first sip slipped my guard, hinting that the evening was only beginning. As the room's noise faded, Gabe mused that the party felt more like a surprise than a premiere, and Jacinda Lockwood entered, her teal gown catching everyone's eye.
It's more fun when it's not your premiere.
In a quiet booth, the narrator spoke of a future that would change, hinting at the actor's identity beyond Gabe Parker, and Gabe listed the reasons he feared he was unfit for Bond. Another glass of whiskey appeared on the table, slipped from the shadows beyond our circle of light, and I drank it despite knowing I shouldn't.
I barely made it out of high school.
I wanted to believe there was something more between us, and the realization that I was a little drunk made that hope feel both fragile and oddly comforting. She mused that perhaps this discussion about comedy could erode the crush she felt toward Gabe.
It was amazing.
Under the dim lights and the clink of glasses, they both drank until they could no longer discern right from wrong, and Gabe, curious, asked why she despised Annie Hall. The narrator swears that Woody Allen is a piece of shit, her words a sharp feminist tirade.
Why Woody Allen is a piece of shit? He is a piece of shit, isn't he?
Oliver leaned conspiratorially, noting the need to keep their discussion quiet from the looming Woody fans.
You never know when the Woody fans will attack with their battle cry of separate the art from the artist.
Later, the air grew heavy as Oliver mentioned my intelligence, hinting at unspoken possibilities. At the dim table, Oliver arrived, and Gabe lifted a glass of shared hearts, toasting the night.
The movie is great.
Gabe, sensing Oliver's weary glow, wrapped a reassuring squeeze around him, and together they stepped away, ready to celebrate the film they loved. They turned to me, eyes searching, as they asked if I wanted this.
What about hers?
I said yes, confirming that I trusted them and was willing to go along. The narrator laments that Hollywood's biggest sin is presenting friendships that look effortless and impossible in real life. He lists the imagined bonds: a secret handshake, watching movies snuggled under a blanket, long phone talks, and an endless well of unconditional support. He concludes that such friendships are manufactured, and he has never found himself in one. The group slipped through a side entrance into a velvet-roped VIP area, the thrum of bass vibrating the floor.
We are in a gay club.
Oliver, leaning over Gabe, explained that he was simply a close friend and that the club's music was what drew them, offering Jell-O shots to calm the buzz. In the quiet after the music faded, the narrator questioned whether the night's hidden truth would become a problem.
Is that a problem?
Oliver, hearing the question, replied that he didn't know and simply wanted to control the narrative, while the narrator sensed he could not risk compromising his integrity for a story. Gabe's gaze stretched from my head to my toes, a slow, deliberate look that felt like a silent acknowledgement of the tension between us.
Did you get your story?
He slid a tray of cherry-flavored Jell-O shots toward us, and I swallowed the first one, feeling a brief, nostalgic surge as the world around us softened. Oliver lifted me, his smile gentle, and pulled me into the rhythm of the club, guiding me past the crowd.
They wanted me to sign a morality clause.
Oliver's eyes held the quiet certainty that he would not let a clause define him, and his resolve settled into the night. She quietly told him she would not share her story, revealing it was about Gabe, their shared film, and his unwavering support. They swayed together, the music weaving between them as he voiced his fear of the manager's disapproval, and she offered the possibility that the spotlight might only grow brighter. Their conversation slipped into absurd jokes about horns, Santa, and circumcision, laughter echoing in the dim club as they became more drunk and the barrier between them melted into budding friendship. I like you, and I think he likes you too, as Ollie murmured, turning toward Gabe. I love this song, I shouted as the pop anthem surged, Ollie laughing, me too. He won't dance, Ollie whispered, and I replied, his loss, as we turned toward the glittering night. On the dim dance floor, I stood beside Ollie, the music pulsing softly beneath our feet, and the world seemed to tilt with each tentative step. Though the alcohol blurred my knees, Gabe's steady gaze met mine, a quiet acknowledgement of the fragile tension that hung between us, while the beat carried us gently forward.
You did it, you saucy Jewish siren, you got him on his feet.
He stood close, the scent of expensive cologne mingling with something primal, and I felt the weight of his presence against my stomach. The music pressed around us like thick steam, and his gaze stayed fixed on me, unblinking, as the dance floor dimmed into darkness. Even though the scene felt like a fantasy, his subtle hips moved in time with the beat, proving he was a dancer, not merely an actor. Gabe's hand rose, stroking her clavicle, his smile wicked, and with a gentle push she let herself surrender into his arm, The moment felt like a scene from a movie. Surreal, intoxicating, powerful. She sensed his presence mirrored hers as they moved together.
Come on.
No one wanted Gabe Parker to play Bond. Critics, unsettled by a backlash of homophobia, sought another reason to doubt him. Yet the film's creators guided the audience into accepting him with an entrance that echoed legendary introductions, weaving charm into the moment. That's Gabe Parker. He watched Jacinda Lockwood, her wine-red gown glowing as she danced with a partner twice her age, while the room followed his gaze. Parker approached, smoothing his hair and pocketing his glasses, and drew Lockwood into his arms as they drifted onto the dance floor. He wrapped his arm around her waist, traced her collarbone, and with a gentle push she swooned into a slow dip, a half-circle, and the room fell in love with him. The film's critics had found a reason to doubt Gabe Parker's fit for Bond, citing his past role in a gay-themed play. Chani Horowitz had warned that Parker's portrayal would be unsettling, and the producers spent the briefest moments on screen to convince viewers otherwise. Parker's arrival on screen became a tightly choreographed moment where acting, editing, and music blended to present a convincing Bond. The ballroom hushed as Jacinda Lockwood's wine-red gown floated like a quiet night dress across the dance floor, the music a soft pulse in the stillness. From a distance he watched, his eyes a mirror of longing, while Parker moved toward her, his shoulders straightening into a new, deliberate grace. When Parker lifted Lockwood, their bodies traced a slow, reverent circle, the room's breath folding into a shared, whispered wonder as the dance drew to a gentle close. I tell myself I'm making a terrible mistake, wondering whether to cancel. I'm going to buy you a plant while you're gone. Katie sits on the couch, her hair in a haphazard bun, as I recall the empty apartment filled with IKEA finds and a half-finished puzzle. He sits on the sofa, gnawing at the corner of his lip, weighing the idea of telling the police that Gabe has returned, yet feeling uncertain and reluctant. You know that's not why I'm here. He's not Jeremy. The narrator was ready for a reaction, but the way Carol sat back and looked over his shoulder startled him. You all know the article I'm talking about, the one that made Gabe Parker a household name. He felt his mind go into quicksand, panic rising as he remembered the cost of chasing fame and how the rumor about Gabe had burned into his life. Katie proposes sending Gabe alone to Montana, offering it as a professional move. I can send him away. After the offer, the narrator grapples with fear and indecision, ultimately deciding to take the trip, handing over the overnight bag to the driver and accepting Gabe as a passenger, while recognizing that there is no rush to resolve the looming tension. He shifts, his voice lingering in uncertainty, asking what the worst could be. He suggests Montana's seasons, recalling the New York echoes, and my smile fades with the memory.
Didn't know a good thing when he had it.
You didn't have me, the narrator snaps, feeling a sting of guilt and a desperate wish to end the connection. The car fills with the familiar song they once danced to, and the memory of that night, their apology, and youthful recklessness washes over them. At a private airport, they question the jet, and Gabe confesses it isn't his, leaving the narrator realizing they will not reach Lax but face an uncertain road ahead.
You love celebrity, you want to be famous.
I found myself annoyed at being impressed, yet craving fame, and I would not accept a private jet, preferring a quiet ride. When Ollie arrived, his hug lifted me, and though I was irritated with Gabe, I felt overwhelmed with gratitude. He confesses, and I feel a strange rush of pride, mixed with a touch of jealousy.
I'm happy for you. Let's get you two crazy kids to Montana.
The narrator speaks slowly, describing how puzzling becomes a gentle refuge from loneliness and fleeting sadness. He explains the ritual of starting with the edges, creating boundaries, then sorting pieces by color or pattern into piles until the urge to assemble rises. The moment the last piece clicks into place is soothing, yet the narrator finds more pleasure in unfolding the finished puzzle, spreading hands over the surface, and then restoring it to its original state. Ollie leans back, his fingers resting on his chin, and softly comments that divorce suits Gabe, a statement that hangs in the air. Gabe, startled, retorts with a question, and the narrator observes the lightness in his skin and the subtle shift in his demeanor.
Divorce suits you.
She found herself torn between the comfort of steady essays and the intoxicating pull of fame, knowing that a leap would mean surrendering the safe path for something truly her.
He loves your writing.
The realization that her words could stir the hearts of strangers left her stomach fluttering, a bittersweet reminder that fame's taste would never quite be pure. I knew the article had elevated Gabe's profile, yet I could not ignore how it had also upset him.
This was a mistake.
I felt the trade-off between career boost and hurt feelings, making the decision hard to swallow. The narrator left the airport immediately, shedding no tears when the film was released a week later due to scheduling conflicts. On the private jet, he hears Gabe and Ollie discuss the upcoming press junket for the Philadelphia story and something called MOTC, while recalling a prior flight in which he watched Magic Mike XXL with Katie, scanned the clouds for meaning, and yet found none. As the jet descends into Cooper, Montana, the first view is a cathedral rising above snow-covered ground, a scene that evokes relief and the sensation of finally breathing fully, a deep breath he takes against a backdrop of quiet winter. It feels as though she is returning home, not to a place, but to a sensation of possibility. That sensation of returning fills her with both comfort and a quiet dread. The fear of stepping into that new possibility presses against her heart. In the late autumn backyard of Oliver Mathias, we sit on lawn chairs wrapped in Pendleton blankets, sipping hot apple cider as the crisp air settles around us.
It's always been my favorite holiday.
He recalls dressing as Xena on Halloween in London, marching with his brothers and his mother's costumes, and how that first love blossomed under the mask of the holiday. Oliver strides in warrior mode, only to find another Xena standing tall beside him, and the clash of identical costumes leaves him bewildered.
Not quite, he says, I was a warrior.
The encounter turns into a bittersweet memory. Years later, he confesses his sexuality to a film director, who bluntly tells him he will never be cast as James Bond, and he remembers that he was in love. The evening settles into the hush of a dimly lit steakhouse, where red leather booths and stone walls create a quiet retreat. I sit in a private back room, order a tender steak and a glass of whiskey on the rocks, and feel the weight of a surly unease, knowing I must navigate this night with adult composure. I turn to Gabe and Ollie, asking for a quote about the film. Gabe offers a guarded reply, and I find myself slipping from passive-aggressive calm into raw frustration, the anger overlaying a mix of hurt pride and the desire to protect fragile emotions. The conversation drifts to the Philadelphia story, Ollie describing it as a film that could use an update, while I note his theater roots and the possibility of returning, and the room hums with a quiet tension that lingers like a gentle, unspoken night. I was seated at a dim steakhouse, my thoughts drifting between a private plane and a broadsheets article, unaware why Ollie had chartered us to Montana.
Better clarify that this is off the record.
The conversation swelled when Ollie uneasy murmured about Gabe's Broadway past, a confession that the show had indeed been seen, and the dawning realization that Gabe's role in a new play had already secured a ticket to opening night, forcing me to rethink a planned escape from Times Square. The theater's hush welcomed her dress reflecting the dim lights as she sat, nerves fluttering like quiet moths. When the usher led her to a door marked Gabe's name, she knocked and found him with Jacinda, and the weight of her own false promise settled over her.
You can't be out here.
I thanked Gabe for the ticket and, blocked by sandbags, hesitated before stepping back into the darkened backstage. Gabe, still in costume, muttered out, "Damned spot," as he rubbed his lipstick, and the conversation drifted to Jacinda and his mother. He offered an after-party invitation, mentioning his wife, and I playfully asked whether there would be any fun at all. She stepped out into the cool night, clutching her purse as Gabe's eyes lingered on her wedding band, a quiet wave of shame washing over her.
I didn't know she'd be there that night.
He whispered of the novelist, and she walked away feeling like a deflated balloon, her heart heavy with unspoken truths. They met backstage, the air thick with unspoken apologies, and a shared longing to make sense of a past they both could not ignore.
It might have been my impulse to get married, but our initial arrangement was her idea.
They reached across the table, extended hands, and found that neither of them needed to kill the other to feel relieved. He sits down, oblivious to the moment he just interrupted, while my hand slides back into my lap.
No.
No murders committed. Gabe Parker, returning to his roots, greets Broadway like a nervous college freshman, saying it's a bit like being back in college. He plays Carl Lindner in A Raisin in the Sun, embraces the role as underdog, joking that lower expectations are better, knowing the audience might boo if he falters. His mother will attend opening night as his date, while his wife Jacinda in London cheers him on in spirit. Gabe and Ollie talk about checking a site tomorrow and maybe heading out, while the narrator feels like a distant third wheel, unsure of where they belong. The narrator senses a growing tension, fingers pressed together, a lingering heat, and a taut line of feeling between them, a mix of eagerness and fear. Ollie whispers, he's delicate, encouraging the narrator to go gentle on Gabe. I hear the sound of paws on the hardwood, kneel, and a familiar scent greets me, but the dog is now tall and lean, her name still unknown.
Teddy.
Gabe watches as I rub Teddy's belly, tears falling yet feeling the warmth of her affection, and I realize this weekend's quiet moments are about answering the questions that have lingered. She steps into Gabe's spacious apartment, the air still warm from the rust-red fireplace, and notices a half-completed puzzle on the coffee table.
I do.
She observes Gabe, relaxed against the kitchen wall, and wonders how she can reconcile the surreal calm of the Montana-inspired apartment with the strange sense of disorientation she feels. He gives an intense look that makes me feel exposed, and Gabe asks, "Are you cold?" I reply, "I'm always cold." And he smiles as he builds a fire, its crackle spreading golden light while Teddy leans against her bed, warmth seeping into the room. I ask what I am doing here, and he says, "Channy," and we share a quiet moment beneath the glow of the fire, each wrapped in the calm of the night. Gabe explains his fidelity and marriage, I recount my divorce, we speak of past mistakes and hope, and the evening settles around us in gentle, warm light. Gabe discovers the narrator's divorce, his laugh echoing a mix of disbelief and humor.
I only knew about your divorce because you wrote about it.
She tells him she is doing well, sober for 2 years and happily divorced, which finally steadies the conversation. Gabe leans close, softly asking if she is happy, and she, looking for a smile, replies that she could be happier if everyone were content.
I could make you happy.
Show me. Jacinda Lockwood, once entwined with the famed former Bond actor Gabe Parker, finally announces her divorce, a decision that had long been whispered but never spoken. Rumors of their separation had lingered since Gabe's dismissal from his third Bond film and his repeated rehabilitation. Yet the news only reached the public after their last public appearance together at the funeral of Parker's brother-in-law. What once drove the pair to impulsive Vegas nights now feels extinguished, as the spark that once kept them together fades into the quiet of their separate lives. Jacinda Lockwood's announcement of divorce from former Bond actor Gabe Parker has finally reached the public, surprising because it took years to come to light. Rumors of their separation began after Parker was dismissed from his third Bond film, and his repeated rehab stints only accelerated the countdown to their split. Fans were last reassured by grainy photos of the pair at a Montana funeral, but the spark that once led them to Vegas has now faded. After years of whispers, Jacinda finally stepped forward to announce the end of her marriage to Gabe. The last moment they shared together was at a Montana funeral, a fragile echo of a love that had once been bright. Their once fierce spark, that had carried them to a Vegas getaway, now flickered out, leaving only the quiet of their final chapter. Gabe sends a gentle morning text, offering a simple cure for the hangover: no caffeine, plenty of water, and a big breakfast. He then invites to a party that evening, and the narrator spends the day hydrating, refusing any drinks. At the house, a heated pool and open bar hum softly, while Gabe demonstrates his skill at running pyramid, a game the narrator admits to struggling with. The evening began like any other house party, with rooms echoing the rhythm of a game called Running Pyramid, where guests chased prompts and tried to guess the few chosen words. After a single drink and little sleep, she slipped into Gabe's dog bed, and he lifted her gently into his guest room to rest until the morning. When she awoke, Gabe, watching TV, soothed her with popcorn sprinkled with cinnamon and sugar, while the glow of Star Trek. The next generation filled the room, and they both laughed at their shared Trekkie fandom. Gabe's gatherings are not the endless, booze-driven soirees one might expect, but instead quiet, playful evenings where the focus shifts from drinking to the game of running pyramid. An open bar sits beside a heated pool and a hot tub, the steam curling above the backyard, yet the rhythm of the party settles on turns of running rather than clinking glasses. Even in the midst of California's winter, the nights feel warm and inviting, the game's simple rules guiding everyone into a shared, gentle competition rather than a wild, indulgent escapade. After a single drink, he slipped into Gabe's dog bed, the world dimming to a hush of sleep. When he awoke, the soft murmur of a distant room drew him to the living room where Gabe, on the couch, offered him popcorn and a quiet apology. He lingered there, the scent of cinnamon and sugar mingling with the gentle glow of the TV, and the night settled into a calm hush. The passage is silent, holding no words to share. No narrative unfolds in this section. Only quiet remains, inviting calm. He woke in a haze, the room buzzing with his phone, eyes strained against the bright light.
Get some chilaquiles, he'd texted, best hangover cure I know.
Gabe's text barrage offered a buffet of cravings, yet his stomach rebelled from last night's drinks, and the messages shifted to warnings against caffeine and a shared recipe for chai. Wrapped in a towel after a steam-filled shower, she sat on the bed, reading Gabe's messages, each one a gentle nudge toward his party, the winky face cooling her hopeful glow.
I'm having a party at my place tonight. You can bring your tape recorder if you want.
He selected a pair of jeans that once made him feel confident, paired with a slightly tighter top, and practiced politely refusing the cocaine he assumed would be offered.
You're here, Ollie greeted him with open arms.
He had expected to be ignored, but the room turned to welcome him, and a quiet sense of relief washed over him. In the dim glow of the living room, a conversation about drinks unfolds, offering beer, cocktails, and a subtle hint that something more could be stirred.
I don't think Gabe has any cocaine. It's you.
Even though the living room buzzed with music and laughter, a quiet hush fell over the crowd, and Gabe's calm smile echoed the one he had worn on the red carpet. Hi, he said. Hi, I said again, as a small bark from the puppy cut through the hush. Gabe handed me a plate of cheese for Ollie, saying feel free to spoil her too. And then, after the dog licked my fingers, he grinned and added, let's get you a drink, inviting me to stay. Gabe Parker stepped onto the Cold Creek Mountain premiere stage beside his mother, while his sister's presence added a gentle warmth that won over many fans. He keeps his father's absence a silent mystery. The man who raised him, Thomas Parker, a contractor who died of a brain tumor, remains a quiet echo in the headlines. He even calls her his best friend. She found herself alone by the bar, the drink in her hand, as Gabe and the puppy slipped into the crowd. She remembered the heavy pour of whiskey into a red Diet Coke, the tape recorder he'd asked her to bring, and the uneasy hush that settled over her. From the couch, she watched Gabe move through the chaos, entirely at ease, and for a fleeting moment felt the pull of his absence. He swayed, the sugar buzz still pulsing, yet fatigue tugged at his eyelids. He rose, reaching his final altitude, as Gabe stepped to the center of the room.
Okay, it's time to play.
I asked how long the games would last, and the boozy, sleepy eyes around me merely nodded. The polished veneer of the evening began to slip, a quiet warning that the night's carefree revelry was slipping from my grasp. Gabe and Ollie hovered nearby, the murmur of the party muffled by the quiet breath of the protagonist. I'm sleepy. They coaxed the protagonist into a game of lists, promising gentle embarrassment amid the clatter of glasses. Gabe clapped my shoulder, and the room hummed as he asked who would go first. Adrian stepped forward, warming up with exaggerated lunges while the other guests called out, "Are both teams ready?"
Good.
At dusk, Adrian playfully taunted Gabe, prompting a laugh and a teasing remark about teaching the newbie.
I'm just teaching the newbie how to play.
She scooped me under her arm, lifted me back to my feet, and we all laughed, but the game dragged on, and Red Clogs muttered that the teams were unfair. Gabe, determined, offers a gentle stretch, his shirt sliding up, before urging me with a quiet, "You can do this," to keep the game moving. He steps away, only to return with a teasing comment, "He's a piece of shit," and a playful nod toward Woody Allen, then watches me stumble toward the door. The chant of "Go, go, go" carries me through the hallway. I dash back to Gabe for a sportsmanlike slap, and I chase the next prompt before hearing his eyes sharpened on me. The rest of the round unfolded in rapid-fire exchanges, until I ran back to Ollie, who waved the paper. I shouted, "We won!" To my team, they burst into cheers, and Gabe hugged me, spinning me across the bedroom. "You two really are the dream team, aren't you?" The novelist imagined a perfect day on an East Coast boardwalk, a hot dog, frozen lemonade, and an unadvertised bookshop where a literary Jonathan invites the two of them to dinner. My own perfect day would be in a small town with a chilly afternoon, a cozy sweater, a steaming cup of hot chocolate, and the quiet pleasure of strolling through familiar streets.
That idea sounds incredible. Here's my personal email, send it to me when you're done, we'll get it published.
He awakens, blinking into the dim light, realizing he is alone in Gabe's sprawling bedroom, the bed a vast, luxurious expanse he has never before slept on. The memory swirls of whiskey, jelly beans, and a frantic game of running pyramid, the laughter, the dog's joyous bark, and the sudden surge of sugar that had made victory feel like a sunlit triumph. You were that close to fucking him, and this is what happened. After the evening's chaos, Gabe slipped her onto his bed, and she flopped onto the mattress face first, clutching a pillow for comfort. Her purse and phone were still in the guest room. The house fell silent, a hushed echo of distant voices, and she felt the weight of staying versus leaving. She gathered her shoes, opened the bedroom door, and stepped into the quiet night, knowing she must retrieve her belongings and face the task of writing her article. He grinned, saying, "You were pretty funny," and we laughed as he pointed to the puppy asleep on the dog bed, reminding me I could have put him in the guest room. He noted that only 3 hours had passed, that he shouldn't sleep on the couch, and he offered a glass of water, saying, "I'm a huge nerd," as he returned from the kitchen. I confessed my own nerdiness, that Data and Worf were favorites, and he invited me to watch again, but I stayed put, listening to the quiet night. Gabe offered a cab and invited me to watch 3 episodes together, turning the night into a quiet, comforting ritual.
He loved Geordie.
When I asked about his father, Gabe explained that he had died when Gabe was 10, and that his dad was a hero he still remembered with great tenderness. Gabe reflected that his many articles on celebrities had turned the story of his life into part of his own DNA, making public interest feel like a narrative he had to live.
My father, his memory is private.
When the topic shifted to the heavy subject of his father's legacy, Gabe gently steered the conversation toward the lighter world of Star Trek, asking how I first fell in love with the series. Gabe chuckled at the narrator's mock outrage, joking that he imagined the narrator would be as awkward as the other grad students in elbow-patched sweaters.
This is how it feels.
The screen showed a young actress confessing, "I'm incomplete," to an actor, and Gabe watched, his reflection a blur between youth and age in the glow of the television. "When I'm in front of the camera," he said, "I know who I am," he admitted, and when the lens was off, he felt a stranger. He pointed to the stack of books and said, "I told you that I did my research," and I noted the literary magazine, The Garden, by Chani Horowitz on the end table. He confessed, wasn't expecting the dragons, though, and I flushed, the quiet room holding the weight of that revelation. While watching Star Trek, Gabe gently placed his hand on the narrator's knee, an unexpected touch that sent the air shiver warm between them. The sudden contact startled the narrator, who flung a magazine and a bowl of popcorn into the air. Both apologized, the floor littered with kernels, their cheeks flushed with embarrassment. Gabe pulled back the narrator's sudden kiss, hands on shoulders, and the narrator, eyes closed, offered a quiet, heartfelt apology as the room settled into quiet nighttime hush. His hand rested on my chin, a quiet pressure that sent gentle shivers through my jaw.
"Hey," he said again.
The kiss deepened, hands entwining, and the world narrowed to a single, warm, unhurried moment. Gabe wrapped his arms around my back, the gentle tremor of his fingers, his forehead pressed against mine, and we both breathed deeply, wondering if this was still okay. He lifted us, turning me onto the couch as he settled over me, our bodies aligning in quiet rhythm while his hand moved through my shirt, and I pressed my palms into his to keep our pace.
Do that again.
He paused, whispered baby, in a quiet, questioning tone, and the air around them seemed to chill like a cold shower. She heard herself say, "Wait," the word swallowed by the soft breath between them. Gabe's reply, "No, don't go," hung in the silence as they sat, the room heavy with unspoken apologies. She sat on the couch, the night's warmth still lingering, and whispered into a pillow, her voice a trembling echo of regret.
Don't be ridiculous, he said.
Gabe, his smile weary yet genuine, offered to call a cab and suggested they speak again at dawn, leaving her to linger in quiet uncertainty. She slipped into the guest room, closed the door, and stood in the quiet as the click of the dog's nails rang faintly.
Come on, honey.
At the other end of the house, the bedroom door closed softly, marking the final boundary. The film is praised for being solid, yet it falls short of the grandness expected from a Bond movie. It exposes two truths: the rift between Parker's portrayal of Bond and the director's vision, and the visible toll of his alcoholism.
You got the A's.
The reviewer gently observes that the film is neither a spectacular triumph nor a disastrous failure. It simply delivers a modest Bond experience. He highlights that the movie captures the growing tension between Parker and director Ulrich, alongside the visible toll of Parker's alcoholism, showing the same man later walking into rehab. Finally, he reminds us that Parker was not the original choice for the role, and that this film is only one chapter in the broader story of the franchise's casting and production. It's the movie everyone has been talking about, not for good reasons. If that's the only reason you're planning to see this movie, you'll be disappointed. The film is good, but not great, and not the train wreck everyone expected. A glass of water rests beside the bed, and a prickly wave of embarrassment brushes over the narrator as Gabe's hand rests in his hair, eyes steady on him.
I could make you happy.
When the night ends, Gabe departs, leaving a quiet silence. The narrator drifts into vivid dreams, wakes to find him at a table with coffee, his gaze distant, not ready for the bed. "Good morning," he says, then asks, "How's your head?" I answer that it is fine. He then says he has plans for us today, and I admit I was a little too much to drink. When he offers to explain, I reply, "You hated it." He sits beside her, the couch yielding beneath them, as the air hangs heavy with unspoken questions.
I didn't expect you to write about Sunday.
She realizes that Gabe never intended her article to reach his private memories, and the weight of that revelation settles like a quiet tide. Gabe recalled how the article had made him feel angry and foolish, especially about his drinking.
I read your article, and I reacted like a stupid, drunken fool with a bruised ego.
I hurt you. It gathers Horowitz's sharp interviews and personal essays into a collection praised for its dry humor and candid honesty, promising readers both laughter and insight. Horowitz has done it again? A gem of a collection, like her first one, her well-known interviews are featured alongside more of her personal essays. She tackles every topic, from homophobic Hollywood to how she manages depression with jigsaw puzzles, all with her signature dry, self-deprecating humor. A hilarious, occasionally weepy collection of essays and interviews. Horowitz is truly the queen of the celebrity interview. We all remember the Gabe Parker piece, and this book is a master class in the form. The perfect holiday gift for all your friends. She wraps a thick scarf around her neck, boots laced, feeling like an overstuffed penguin, as lightness loosens years of anger between her and Gabe, and she waits to ask about a phone call.
He's probably running an errand.
The morning unfolds in Cooper, Montana, where cold snow sparkles on streets. A stranger greets with a quiet morning, and Gabe shrugs, noting the man's layers are unnecessary for a quick errand. Gabe grins at me, asks if we're meeting Ollie, then says he has other things, and offers to show me around the town, noting that Ollie is simply with him for now. We walk past the cozy, its dim interior and overstuffed chairs, through a hardware store lit by bright Christmas lights. then to a toy shop beside a jewelry shop, before stopping at a coffee shop that opens as we arrive, where Gabe orders Earl Grey tea for me and a croissant for Channy, the warmth settling in my chest.
Not quite.
He murmured that he loved the town, yet confessed that he had bought a house in LA to avoid the smallness of it all. Around the glittering Christmas tree, Gabe talked of traveling between Montana and LA, the weight of an accident, and the comfort of family, while the dog sniffed at the branches and a gentle hand was offered.
The tree isn't the thing I wanted you to see.
He gives me a tug, and I feel our hands still interlocked, the brief shock of intimacy settling into something familiar.
I think it's perfect.
Inside the cobweb-laden old theater, we find a stage and a pit for a small orchestra, and the narrator thinks it's perfect. At a quiet restaurant, Gabe Parker orders a glass of water, marking his first interview since returning from rehab.
I try not to trade in regrets.
Gabe admits his film career is over, and while rumors of new projects circulate, producers may hesitate to hire him. We gather sandwiches, sit on the stage, and a faint ghost light bathes the setting. "It needs a lot of work," I whisper, while Gabe feeds a slice of turkey to Teddy, then he counters, "I have money and a business partner who has even more." He pats my hand and says, "If it makes you feel any better, your questions have gotten a lot better," before asking, "Whatever happened to the dragons?" The narrator admits hesitation, and Gabe calmly answers, "Dragons don't exist." They discuss the weight of expectations, Gabe's reassurance that a suitable agent would be interested, and the narrator's fear of changing the story. The narrator confesses to fear, and Gabe responds, "It's scary." After a drunken night, Jeremy apologized, but the realization that their marriage was irreparably broken settled like a quiet weight. At the Brooklyn Brownstone party, he muttered that these deadlines are creativity killers, and lamented that the book was not even good, while jealousy of others, success simmered beneath his sour mood. When a young woman with big glasses and red lipstick praised his work, Jeremy lit up, and I, hearing her say, "I love your work," felt a fleeting sense of warmth amid the tension. The narrator felt flushed with pride when the young woman praised his book and his Gabe Parker profile, though a twinge of jealousy lingered.
She fucked him.
The narrator apologized to the flustered young woman, then watched Jeremy leave into the rain, feeling the weight of the evening. She already knew the public's view of her work, and it eroded her pride, though she had hoped her husband would not share that opinion.
Channy.
She looked at him, the reason for her career, and replied, "Sorry, just remembering something," then refused to answer his question. The review acknowledges the adaptation's effort to honor the classic, while updating its father-daughter dynamic. Yet it admits the film never fully captures the original's zaniness. It discusses the controversy surrounding Gabe Parker's casting as C.K. Dexter Haven, suggesting that the director's deliberate choice reflects the character's troubled history. Parker's performance is described as droll, debonair, and pitch-perfect, a portrayal that ultimately steals the show from an otherwise superb cast. After dinner, they steered away from future plans, yet Gabe calmly announced, "We want to open next fall."
Damn it, I knew I'd played it wrong. Where's your phone? Let's get something on film.
They entered the cozy, its bell jingling like a gentle memory, and Gabe offered a steaming cup of apple cider, the scent of apples and cinnamon filling the warm shop. It all feels strangely familiar, even though I've never been here before, as Gabe and I step into the softly lit store.
Not all the time.
I meet Channy's mother, Elizabeth, and she wraps me in a hug. Her smile grows as she says the store is beautiful, and I feel the quiet weight of possibilities. Inside the cozy, the scent of apples and cinnamon mingles with the hum of soft Christmas carols, and a quiet crowd gathers around the towering bookshelves, each with its own name. "Thank you so much." Elizabeth stops in front of a shelf and exclaims, "Ta-da," as she points to the cozy recommensis, while the handwritten sign beneath reads, "Recommended by Gabe." The evening quietened as Gabe leaned close, his breath warm on the narrator's ear.
You're a great writer.
Elizabeth smiled, handed a bouquet of pens, and the narrator settled behind the desk to sign the many copies. She recalls that night, the echo of Jeremy's words still lingering, weighing on her sense of worth.
It's the only reason you have a career at all.
In the quiet glow of Gabe's bookstore, she questions whether her words could shine without that painful reminder. Channy. They went to dinner, where Gabe explained he had bought the Victorian house for them after Spencer's death and shared his grief over the loss.
Spence knew my dad.
Gabe's eyes held a sheen, a deep, weighted sadness, as he tried to let his thoughts spill out.
She's a teen girl, I say.
He keeps reaching out, hoping Lena will one day know he's there for her. At the table, Lena's brows slacken, her eyes dark as inherited from her father, while the rest of us share an identical nose, making her dinner feel like a strange torture. Lauren remarks that Lena is a big reader, and that she always came with a book, prompting a quiet generosity from Elizabeth about sending pre-release copies. Gabe and the others share lasagna, while I note his grin and the warm glance between Lauren and Elizabeth, and the tension of possibly disappointing them.
Lena.
He says she is a reporter, she confirms, and he asks what she thought of the piece while everyone holds their breath. The conversation ends with apologies and Lena leaving the speaker with a sense of guilt. Lauren shrugs, then explains that Gabe's work is a trade-off, and Gabe replies with a quiet bite while they check their phones. Ben Walsh. The narrator notes that the name sparks a blush, the mention of a handsome actor, a choking laugh, Gabe's reassurance that he's right there, and Elizabeth's gentle pat. In the dim glow of the set, Gabe's mother whispered that he was very handsome, and the conversation turned to the enigmatic Benjamin Walsh, a figure who had once shared a life of adventure and now lingered in the shadows of the Philadelphia story. I'm a person, not a lost stake. Don't be a macho asshole. The air cooled as Gabe admitted that his sister was the kind of model he admired, and the narrator finally felt a newfound respect for Benjamin Walsh, seeing him not just as a flirt, but as a talented, modern surfer bro whose past was as complex as the present. I suppose you know better than anyone how us everyday folk need to be protected from the big, bad movie stars.
I think dinner is over.
The quiet dining room holds them, the muffled sounds from upstairs drifting through as Gabe comments on the narrator's skill at clearing a room. In the quiet hush of dawn, the narrator and her husband lived in a country built of inside jokes, shared habits, and a morning routine that felt like a familiar path. He rose before sunrise, his typewriter's clink echoing in her dreams, where tiny mice, hedgehogs, and a professor admired mushroom-hopping heroine danced, and those images found their way into his stories. He thanked her as his muse in the first novel, though the next may honor a new love, reminding that even the strongest countries can fall apart when the ground beneath is unsteady. The evening dissolves as Gabe and the narrator drive home, the truck shrinking like a retreating horizon.
The call.
The narrator, haunted by a night before call from rehab, stops the journey, their pulse racing, seeking to untangle the past before the road ends. He arrived, the air thick with the scent of whiskey, his voice trembling, each syllable of his name elongated like a breath held too long.
Channy, Channy, Channy.
He laughed, rattling off Woody Allen and a joke before a long, drawn-out refusal of a refill, the silence that followed echoing the fragile thread of his connection to her. She began the conversation with Gabe, gently reminding him of the call from the night before he entered rehab, the one that had stirred unease in both of them.
You were nice, wrong but nice. I shouldn't have been Bond, you know it. The world knows it. They should have picked Ollie. I'm wrong, I'm all wrong. I deserve this, I deserve it all.
Later, she reflected on how Gabe's memory of that call had faded, and how their conversation, filled with apologies and promises to call back, seemed to echo in a quieter, older version of himself. I called Gabe the next morning. A British female voice answered, telling me he was in rehab and that no phones were allowed. Don't call again, Tracy.
You're Tracy. It seemed clever at the time.
They laughed until their lungs hurt, crying a little at the absurdity of it all, and Gabe leaned back, staring at him. Let's go inside, I say. Horowitz, a former Iowa Writers' Workshop fiction student, has carved a niche in nonfiction with her debut. Tell me something I do know, now in paperback. I never expected the reaction I got. She admits she didn't seek out subjects, and when asked about the viral Gabe Parker profile, she simply smiled and answered, nothing happened. The truck slows under a midnight sky. Teddy darts out to sniff the snow, while Gabe drapes his coat over his arm, unchanged by the cold.
I'm not in any rush.
He lifts my coat, the room warms, and when he speaks of the night on the couch, his apology hangs in the air, trembling between memory and hope. By the crackling fire, their silence stretched, a weight building between them.
I shouldn't have.
When he confessed the heat and his own shame, the awkward space shifted into a raw, uneasy understanding. She confesses she didn't know, her heart fluttering as the weight of the secret settles between them.
I've wanted you since the first moment.
He confirms his longing, and they both nod into a quiet, uncertain, yet hopeful future. Gabe's hand rests gently on her elbow, drawing her close, and the first soft, tender kiss meets a feeling like a fresh start. His fingers trace her back, his palm holding her as they remember the trust of that club night, and the touch of his lips becomes a quiet promise, a steady placeholder between heartbeats. Now, years later, they move with certainty, each knowing exactly what the other seeks, and together they surrender to a passion that feels both familiar and irresistibly new. Gabe gives me a grin, then grips the sides of my shirt, pulls it off, the fabric tearing and the buttons scattering. I've always wanted to do that, he says. I laugh at my own absurd line, they're just breasts, and he shakes his head, saying, there's nothing just about you, as his fingers trace my hips and the room fills with the scent of his hair and the heat of our bodies. He whispers, take off your pants, and I sputter a laugh while he flips my jeans, flinging them across the room before landing back on me, kissing the remnants of humor from my lips. She takes his face, kisses him softly, and they both ascend toward a burning, tight point of desire, each motion a quiet promise. Please, 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 please.
Can I?
Gabe leans over the woman, his hair wild, a bead of sweat sliding down his brow, laughing as his arm trembles.
Good.
He cups her face, their lips meet in a gentle kiss that swells into longing, then he offers a condom and they move together in slow, aching harmony. His words are gone, lost in the cacophony of groans and panting, as our bodies meet over and over again, chasing the same thing together.
It's you.
He leans back, pushes hair away from my face, his thumb tender against the side of my cheek, and I close my eyes as he kisses me, my heart heavy and tight. Gabe Parker is charting a comeback, gathering buzz as he prepares to star in Oliver Mathias's remake of the Philadelphia Story. This week he was spotted in LA, sharing a lunch with writer Chani Horowitz, who once brought him notoriety with a deeply personal profile. While both have denied any unprofessional conduct, the photos of them together hint at what fans have suspected for years, leaving everyone eager to learn what truly transpired that night. Soft breath and a touch of nails slide, creating a gentle hush as their bodies meet over and over, each pulse echoing the other's. Hands entwine, hips moving in unison, a shared rush that turns the room into a quiet, spinning dance of longing.
It's you.
Gabe Parker was seen in Los Angeles, enjoying a quiet lunch with writer Chani Horowitz. Horowitz, who had once written a deeply personal profile of him, recalls their time together at premieres and a private party at Parker's house. Despite being photographed together, both have denied any unprofessional behavior, while fans speculate about what really happened that night. The guest room, with its crisp sheets and many pillows, promised comfort the narrator never found. Feeling too embarrassed to stay, the narrator slipped out as dawn edged the horizon, leaving the room to rest unsatisfied. Still, the narrator, though distant from Bond lore, recognized in Gabe Parker the suave, masculine icon he sought. In Gabe Parker's guest room, the bed is large, the sheets crisp, and the pillows plentiful, yet the narrator feels a gentle disappointment in not having slept there yet. The narrator, feeling embarrassed and sloppy, knows Gabe remains a consummate host, but too shy to confront him, slips out of the house at dusk, a cab taking him home before dawn. Although the narrator has never seen a Bond film, he still sees in Gabe the embodiment of suave masculinity, a quiet confidence that feels like the very essence of the iconic spy. In Gabe Parker's guest room, the sheets were crisp, the bed large, and the pillows plentiful, inviting comfort he offered to all. The narrator, a mess of embarrassment, slipped out at dusk, avoiding the host he so admired, and rode home in a cab. He confessed to knowing little of Bond culture, yet saw Gabe as the embodiment of the suave, masculine icon he sought. She counted to 100, confirming Gabe was asleep before quietly leaving his room with shoes, purse, and jacket untouched. The memory of his face after she turned him down flooded her with embarrassment, reminding her of who she was and of the mistake she'd avoided by staying away. With the front door closed behind her and a cab called, she walked down the hill, the hazy amber light glinting on houses, and returned home in quiet reflection. She counted to 100, then slipped away, confident Gabe slept and the front door was far enough to keep her movements hushed. A swell of embarrassment rose each time she thought of Gabe's face, the memory of that moment a quiet reminder of who she was. She closed the door with a soft click, walked down the hill with her bare feet on the hardwood, and rode a cab home as the sky turned hazy amber. She counted to 100, gathered her shoes, purse, and jacket, and approached Gabe's room with a quiet breath. The creak of the guest bedroom door brought no sound, yet the image of Gabe's face after she had turned him down swelled, reminding her of who she was and that sleeping with him would have been the biggest mistake of her life. She left the house, her bare feet silent, the front door closing with a muffled click, walked down the hill beneath a hazy amber sky, and after calling a cab, returned home. The passage stops abruptly. Its ending feels sudden. No further content follows. She wakes to sunlight and a phone buzz, noticing Gabe's quiet whistle in the other room and the gentle chill of the air beyond the comforter.
Bad news.
She reviews the rumor mill photos, sees Gabe's face glowing with love, and they both agree to make it work, though she feels a stormy heaviness. Gabe nods, his mind already drafting the steps to call management and release a statement.
We'll call my management, we'll put out a statement.
She feels the mug burn her fingertips, realizes the heaviness of the decision, says she needs more time, and knows paparazzi will close in if they don't act now. She tells him she can't do this, and his reaction shifts from confusion to anger, the weight of the unspoken past pressing down.
Are you fucking serious right now? You left.
After a long pause, Gabe gently extends a hand toward the living room, urging Channy to write the article about their shared story.
Then do it.
Channy, unsettled, counters that, while the public is fascinated by his scandals, she feels their story deserves to be told as a personal truth rather than a sensational tale. Channy admits she will forever be known as the writer who fabricated a story about Gabe. Gabe counters, accusing her of self-blaming and demanding she accept responsibility. Their anger erupts, and both confess the shared regret of having written that damaging piece. She lets her coat fall, leaves purse and scarf behind, and slips into the alley behind the dumpster, boots untied and ears numb in the cold. She laces her boots slowly, calls Ollie, and waits on the sidewalk, chilled and foolish, hoping he will appear.
Hello, darling.
Channy clears her throat as Ollie smiles and places his phone face down, his gaze only half on her. I don't want to talk about it. They talk about the pictures, Gabe's admiration, and the weight of fame, with Ollie reminding her that a star's feelings are no different, and Channy senses a subtle shift within herself. Channy reflects on the weight of her past choices as Ollie questions her motives, her voice tinged with quiet remorse. The diner hums, a cold gust licks her neck, and Gabe steps into their booth nervous as the conversation turns toward truth. Gabe hands her forgotten scarf, and in that small gesture, they share a moment of quiet forgiveness, the night settling around them. The heat from Gabe's truck keeps his scarf folded as they drive back to the apartment and he takes in the view of Main Street, the mountains, a church spire, a water tower, and a distant old hotel, all under a thin layer of snow. From his living room, window Gabe sees the narrator crouched behind a dumpster, noting that he had watched the narrator duck to avoid a confrontation. The narrator feels hot and embarrassed, unzips his jacket, and reflects that he never thought he deserved Bond, wishing for time and secrecy while snowflakes fall around the truck. Gabe's voice slips past the diner's clatter, a quiet confession that melts into my tears.
I can say with all confidence that Gabe Parker is the Bond we need. He might even be the bond we deserve.
He recalls the short story, Dragons, and how my words had already wove a thread of fascination. Gabe whispered, "I can't change how people see you."
Or you can come home with me.
He slid the keys off the dash, opened the door against the wind, and left the scarf behind. We step into the white flurry of snow. Gabe steadies me with his arms, and Teddy wags her tail beside us as he softly whispers that he loves me. In turn, I find my own words, saying I love you too, and we share everything, letting the cold hold our tears together. As we stand in the snow, he promises to figure it out, and we let our hearts settle, knowing wherever we are, we'll stay together. I look down at Teddy, her mouth opening to reveal a doggy grin. She nudges my hand and I whisper, "That's true."
Johnny.
I reply with a quiet yes, followed by another yes.